Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Russell. This is my basic hand tools lab, so BTL 100. Today's date is January 15th, 2017. I'm going to be conducting my basic hand tools final lab. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize some of the tools that came with the lab. Everything from the Grace screwdrivers to the Indian stone that was purchased from Brownells. They also sent swivel-based drill bits. Won't be utilizing those today. Also a needle file set, a set of brass punches from also Grace, and also a set of Grace steel drift punches, and then also a Grace rubber and brass hammer, along with a trigger tension scale to check trigger pull gauge to check the weight of a trigger. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to fully disassemble my AR-15, but before we disassemble it, I'm going to check my trigger pull, how many pounds it is, and then we're going to see if we can utilize the Indian stone and a little bit of Flitz polishing compound to see if we can take a little bit off of the pounds on the trigger. And so on top of disassembling this weapon, we will have to utilize a little bit different tools that didn't come with our set, such as like Allen wrenches. That way I can get some of my components off. Alright, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and start the disassembly of my AR-15. See if we can get a good camera view. Alright. So what we're going to do first is let's take apart some of this furniture. Let's get the bipod off. Grab one of our screwdrivers. So one thing that's nice about these screwdrivers, they're hollow ground. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find one that fits with inside of the specific screw you're using. Now these ones are good. Not too much of an assortment of tip sizes. This set's good, but also you may want to also invest in like another full set that gives you a little bit more options. But today we're going to use what was sent to us with the Grace screwdrivers. So here's our bipod, and what we're going to do next is, so prior to handling this weapon, I've already made sure it's clear, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure the weapon is charged, the hammer's down. That way we can get an accurate read of our trigger pull. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the trigger tension scale, make sure the slider's set all the way down, and what we're going to do is we're going to position the trigger pull right on the trigger and do a nice steady pull until it breaks. So we're right about 6 pounds. So you always want to do a couple just so you can get an average. So that one was at 6 pounds. It'll help if I recharge the weapon. Then that one was maybe 8/16. So a little over 6 pounds. We'll try one more time. And that one broke at 6 pounds. So I'd safe to say that the trigger pull on this AR-15 is 6 pounds. Let's see if we can reduce a little bit of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and push in the takedown pins. That way we can take the upper receiver that has the bolt carrier and everything off. We'll go ahead and place that aside. We're not going to disassemble anything off that. The main thing is to disassemble the fire control group on the AR-15 and see if we can take a little bit off of the trigger pull. So typically we would use steel drift, or actually brass punches, to remove the pins on this, but I had switched to anti-roll pin kit and had replaced the standard pins, which look like these right here, standard pins, with an anti-roll pin system. So we're gonna have to utilize an Allen wrench to get those off. But before we do that, I have to take off my bolt catch assisted device from Magpul, which is known as the bad lever, so that we can gain access to our pins. So let's remove that. Take and put that off to the side. I'm going to leave the bolt catch assembled onto there. You can use a 1/16 steel punch to remove that bolt catch, or you can, from Brownells, order a specialty punch that can help you remove that as well. Same thing, it's a 1/16 punch, but this is a roll pin punch, has a dipple at the end of it, and it's also a half round. That way you can go flush to the side of the receiver without worrying about marring your receiver. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the Allen wrench provided, and let's remove this anti-roll pin set. That way we can get that fire control group out. So here's one side. I'm going to flip it over and remove the other side. So that's why they give us 2 Allens, and so what I did was, being that I removed one side already, it's just going to want to spin. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take one of these punches and fit it up to the size of these pins, which is going to be a 5/32. We'll go ahead and open up this brass and polymer hammer. That way we can tap out these pins. So whenever I'm striking metal, I tend to always want to use metal on metal. That way I'm not dinging up the plastic. So I'll use the brass side. And what we'll do is, being that this set is connected together, we're going to tap each one out, each one by one. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hold down the hammer, because the hammer is going to be on spring tension, and go ahead and pull these pins out of the fire control group. So if you push enough force down on that hammer, it's going to keep the tension off that pin. That way you can push that pin out. So you want to release tension off of that hammer, pull the hammer out with its spring, set that off to the side, pull your disconnect out, and then go ahead and pull the trigger unit out of the fire control. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the upper receiver off to the side. So as of right now, we have the trigger, the disconnect, and the hammer set off to the side. And what we're going to do is all the connecting points that connect towards the hammer and the fire control, these shiny silver areas, we're going to use the stone and kind of polish these up a bit, and then go and polish it up with the actual flits. So we're going to want to polish right here and also right here, and then on the hammer where everything connects. So we're going to want to polish it up right here where it connects, and then again up in these areas. So we're going to be using the stone. Vantage point. Alright, so I think that'll work out just fine right there. Just go and wipe these parts down real quick. So when everything's put together, you have your disconnect that's going to ride inside this channel of the fire control group, and then the hammer is also going to connect. What it does is that the disconnect is going to hold inside of the hammer right here. So we're going to want to polish the inside of this hook in here, and then also it grabs against the trigger at this point right here and at this point right here. So we're going to just want to slightly take that stone and just polish those 3 bits right there that hold everything down. That way we can try to get a smooth, crisp release. So this is a little bit of a coarse of a stone. We're going to see how well, that's why I'm going to use the flits afterwards. But you can kind of look to see which direction the metal grain's going in, so you're going to want to follow the same way. So on this one it's in an angle, so we're going to want to use a little bit of oil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on those spots. Not very much, just a very little bit, just so we can have some oil on that surface. Just a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go and put a little bit on here. That way some of it's sitting on there already. Okay. And then we're just going to want to take this stone. What we're going to do is we're going to polish that up a little bit. Clean up some of the, this is a regular mil-spec firing system, and so notice that there's a little bit of burning on the sides of this. Clean a little bit of that up. Alright, so let's just take this file and then just slightly polish up the ridge on the hammer right here, just cleaning it up a bit. Alright, so what we're going to want to do is use a cleaner part of your rag. Take a little bit of this Flitz polish. And so what it's good for is good for polishing metal plastics and fiberglass. So let's see, let me clear some of this. I'm just going to take and put a little bit of the polish on the areas that we worked at. You don't necessarily need to use the stones for that, but we're just going to take the polish and work it in and see if we can polish it up a bit. Get it all, we're not trying to get a mirror finish, but we just kind of want to polish up what we just worked on. Try to get it nice and clean. Remove all the excess. A little bit more smoother. Let's see what we can get a little bit on the surface of this and see what we can polish out on the hammer. Just kind of smooth it up a bit and polish it up. So what we can do, that way we can kind of see if we need to take anything else off of it and do any more. We're going to go ahead and reassemble, kind of clean up a little bit. Reassemble our fire control group, and then let's retest the trigger pull and see if we gained anything. And so for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set aside my anti-roll pin kit, and we're going to utilize the original pins to get this fire control group back together for now. So let's go ahead and bring our receiver back. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the actual trigger, and we're going to place that back in, get it around the safety. We're going to take our disconnect, we're going to go ahead and place that in as well, and we're going to press that down. Take one of the pins. What we're going to do is we're going to line the hole up for the trigger, the actual trigger group, and then press down on the detent to get back lined up and get that pin pressed through. You gotta just make sure everything's lined up. What we're going to do is we're going to take the hammer, and I'm going to use the polymer side for this, just kind of tap, that way we can get through that spring tension, and then just make sure everything's lined up and set the pin. Alright, and then now for the hammer, you have your two springs. You want to make sure that those springs are sitting on top of that pin that you just drove in for the actual trigger and disconnect. You're going to take that hammer, place it in. I always find it easier to kind of engage it onto the actual disconnect to help you hook it. Line up your holes, and then take the pin as long as it's lined up, place it in, and then just give a few taps to help push it through on that spring tension, and then just make sure the opposite side's in, and then we have it set. So you always want to put it on safe and test the trigger to make sure it still catches. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll put it on fire, and we'll see if we reduced the trigger pull, and then go ahead and and if need be, you just keep repeating that process until you get to the desired pull weight that you're looking for. So we'll go ahead and place the upper receiver on, that way we don't damage the receiver when we let the hammer fall. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the tensioner back, make sure it's set back. So the last time we had 2 6-pounds, and then one was slightly over 6 pounds. So let's see if we achieved a lighter trigger pull. So make sure the weapon's charged, it's on fire, that way hammer will fall. Go ahead and set the arm where we had it before, and go ahead and pull. And so we're still, that one was slightly over 6. And then that one's over 6. And so we're still rightfully right where we were. We'd have to a little bit more aggressively polish those areas to get a little bit more metal off to be able to get to where we want to be. And so, but that would be the process to reduce your trigger pull, is obviously polishing those areas on that trigger, using the proper tools to disassemble everything, and then the proper instruments to polish those areas to reduce that trigger pull, and then being able to test it on your trigger pull gauge. And so, due to the length of the video, I'm not going to record the whole length, because this can it can take a little bit of a process. But ensure you take your time. You want to do it in steps, just to make sure you don't take off too much metal all at once, and then you're stuck having to replace parts. So you want to do this in steps. Take a little bit off, polish it, and then put it back together, see where you're at, and then gradually get up to that trigger pull weight that you're looking for. Whether if you want to take a half pound off, or a full pound, or even 2 pounds, depending on how much weight you actually want to take off that weapon. So this was my basic hand tools lab, utilizing some of the tools that the course has sent to me with that the trigger pull gauge, and then also utilizing punch and hammer, and also one of the gray screwdrivers to remove some of the parts off of my AR-15, using the tools, the right tools for the right job, making sure that you do not, this happens to be my personal weapon, but you want to make sure when you're doing work for customers, you want to use the right tools. That way you're not going to damage their weapons and have to incur a cost to replace everything. So again, my name is Matthew Russell. This was for the basic tool lab for the BTL 100, and this is January 15th, 2017.